So in this lesson, we're going to talk even more about parameters. So in the last lesson, we learned that we can have functions that take in inputs, and we can use these inputs to do a little work behind the scenes and produce a new value. So let's look at this function. So we have a function called getProfile, and it takes in a name and the number of friends that person has. And then it simply prints out their name has however many friends they have friends. So in this case, if we call getProfile passing in the name Grace and the number 35, it would output Grace has 35 friends. So as of right now, the way you have to call this function is you have to pass the variables in the correct order. So for instance, if you pass in the number of friends Grace has first and then her name, you're going to get an error because Python doesn't really know how to handle this. Because the way Python actually assigns these values to the variables that the function takes in, for instance, name and friends, it does it based on the position you pass them in. So what's going to happen is 35 is going to be assigned to this variable name. Name is only available within the scope of this function getProfile, so name doesn't exist outside of this function. So you assign 35 to name, and then you assign the string Grace to the variable friends, because that's how you pass it in, and that's the order the function arguments are described in this function header. So 35 is going to be assigned to name. So what's going to happen is Python is going to try to concatenate 35 with this string has right here. And as you know, you have to convert an integer to a string in order to concatenate it with a string. So Python is going to return this unsupported operands type for int and string, because 35 is an int and it can't be concatenated with a string, as we learned in the data types lesson. So it's important to pass them in the proper order. So how can we fix this? Well, we can use what's called default parameters, and these are really useful in Python. So what we can do is we can assign names and values to our parameters so we can pass them into the function in any order we want, and we can also make default parameters so that a certain parameter can be optional. So in this case, to make this have default values, we can just simply type the name of the variable followed by an equal sign and the default value we want to use. So if this function gets called and a username isn't passed in, it's just going to kind of default to this value. So name is going to be defaulted to the string username. In friends, if it's not specified, is going to be set to 0. So we have this first call, getProfile, and we pass in name equals Grace and then friends equals 35. So when that gets called, it's going to just output Grace has 35 friends. And we can also pass them in positionally without having to use the keywords. So we can just pass in Grace and then 35 because that is the proper order. If we just pass in the number of friends they have, it's going to default to this value. So when this line gets executed, it's just going to say username has 12 friends. If we just pass in the name, it's going to default the friends value to 0. So Grace has 0 friends. And if we just call getProfile with no argument specified, it's going to say username has 0 friends. So let's take a look at this. So I'm going to create a function called greet. And this is going to, as you might be able to assume, greet the user. So I'm going to take in the user's name and a greeting. So I'm just going to return a string, and I'm going to say greeting plus name. So when I call greet, and I'm going to pass in, let's see, so I just want to add a little space in between, so this looks nice when it gets outputted. I'm going to just say hello, and then I'm going to pass in the name, my name, Luigi. So I'm going to save that, and I'm actually just going to print this. So print the value that this function returns. I'm going to go up to hit run, lesson 5, and you'll notice it says Luigi, hello, because this first parameter should be my name. So if I cut that, I'll pass my name in first, and then I'll paste that. So if I save that now, and I go ahead and run it, you'll notice we get hello, Luigi. So what we can do is we can make one of these parameters optional. So let's say we want the user's name to always be specified. So that's going to be a required parameter. Greeting, however, we can default that. So we can default that to hello there. So if the person doesn't specify a parameter and just passes in the name, this is what's going to happen. So if we go ahead and run this, we should see hello there, Luigi, because since we didn't pass in this greeting variable, it defaulted to this string hello there. And now greeting's default value is hello there. So we concatenate hello there with this space plus the user's name. So that's really it for optional parameters.